Arizona school vouchers, also called empowerment scholarship accounts, are expected to surpass the $1 billion mark beginning this fiscal year in July. That's 1 billion with a B. Joanna, are you okay with that?
Well, I don't think that at this point I have a choice to be okay with it or not, because the program's here and we're going to have to pay for it. I think what is interesting about this program, in the first 3 years that this thing has become a universal thing where technically anybody can have a voucher, right, is that we've got 86,000 kids now getting a voucher either to go to private school or to be homeschooled.
And this is money taken from the public schools, the Arizona public schools, into private schools or homeschooling.
Most of the kids who initially got the scholarships were people who were already in private school or were homeschooling. What we're seeing now, though, is interesting, is the program's continuing to grow, not at the huge breakneck speeds that it was in the first part of it, but you're seeing now more people who are leaving public schools and going to private schools or homeschools.
Which wouldn't be a big deal if we were not talking about so much money, and also the fact that the legislature and the governor and no one seems to know how to stop it. We have expenditures, outrageous expenditures, $5,000 watch, a $24,000 golf simulator, which honestly, I'm not sure what it is, but $24,000 for some golf stuff, it doesn't sound, you use one. It just doesn't sound right to me.
Right.
How can we stop that? What is that doing to our public schools, the children that are being left behind there?
Well, let's offer a perspective on the numbers, right? So, okay, we have 86,000 families who are getting vouchers. And I should probably also mention, I'm really torn about vouchers because there's some things that are good about them, and there are things that I don't like about them. And so you're not going to get a rah from me, and you're not going to be like, oh, they're terrible, no one should have them. But to keep it in perspective, there's about 1.1 million students in public school. About 900,000 are in district schools. About 200,000 are in charter schools. So Arizona spends about $10 billion on public K-12 education. And
overall, that includes everything.
That's for public, district, and charter schools. So this is about a tenth of going to about a tenth of the population. Is that too much? Is it too little? I don't know. I mean, we can have that conversation. Certainly there are questions about some of the expenditures that have been, like the Rolex watch and stuff. I mean, of course, no. Or the kids who were enrolled that don't even exist, right? Those are outrageous expenditures that should have never happened.
But how do we stop it? I guess that's my point, because the whole idea is to have a school choice. And who doesn't want a school choice? I like school choice. And I want every single parent to have that ability to choose. But how do we control the program so everyone benefits, the parents that needs it, the kids that needs it, but also the ones that are being left behind, and just not waste money.
Right, and that's the big thing. That's from the beginning, everybody said we need more accountability. We need to know where these kids are going, where they came from. A lot of stuff that a lot of the details that we're getting from the kids who are actually getting these charter or school vouchers, it's based on where their zip code is. It's not necessarily
like why don't we know?
Why? Because they don't want, the legislature doesn't necessarily want to have all that information. Personally, I think that
do they know? Case. Do they even know? So apparently that's my problem, that no one knows.
Right. It's really hard to tell. I was even trying to just find how many of those 86,000 vouchers are going to private schools versus homeschools. I couldn't find that information. So it's really hard to find. And so that's probably why we're getting these conflicting reports. Brookings Institution and those kind of guys are saying, oh, this is a huge waste, it's a huge expense. And Common Sense Institute Arizona is looking at their numbers and going, well, actually, maybe it's not so bad.
How do we fix it?
Your question is as good as mine, your guess. I think the Republicans who are in the legislature have no interest in adding additional accountability. So what are we going to do there? I don't know how you make that case if they're not willing to do it. One of the things that I would probably suggest is, if the whole idea of this, right, they call it backpack funding, right? It's like the idea was every kid gets a certain amount of money, and you can go to whatever school you want, right? If it's a public district, if it's a charter, if it's a homeschool, if it's a private school, whatever, the idea is you're supposed to have that.
It sounds like we're doomed.
No.
Okay.
I don't think we're doomed.
So thank you, Joanna. I know you're an expert. For all the opinion content, you can go to azcentral.com.